What's going on, guys? It's Kai here, and in this video we're going to be talking about some Cyberpunk 2077 lore, specifically Johnny Silverhand and the Arasaka's role in what will become the Legend of Johnny Silverhand. If you find this content enjoyable, please hit that like button and make sure to sub so you don't miss out on any Cyberpunk information. Now let's get right into it. When discussing Johnny Silverhand's death, or the fact that he might not even be dead, we must first focus on a certain corporation that led to the mystery of Johnny, and that corporation is Arisaka. The story of Arisaka Corp is very intriguing. They have been around for a very long time and they weren't always known for their evil ways of doing business, such as blackmail, extortion, and bribery. The Arisaka Corp was founded in 1915 by Sasai Arasaka in Tokyo, Japan. They mainly focused on manufacturing at the time, but Sasai saw great opportunity in the coming years. That opportunity was none other than World War II. See, Sasai foresaw that Japan was going to be defeated and took the opportunity to move his wealth across the world so that the post-war government couldn't touch it. This is where another figure would step in, Saburo Arasaka, Sasai's son. Saburo did not want his father to move all his wealth across the seas as he was very passionate about his country. He was a former lieutenant in the Japanese Imperial Navy and hated the idea of his father moving all the corporation's assets across the globe. But he would eventually come around to the idea in a very unorthodox way. See, the emperor would go on to surrender and renounce his divinity in 1945. This led Saburo to almost commit seppuku, a Japanese suicide by disembowelment. And when the blade was in his abdomen, he had an epiphany. He saw his father's wisdom and knew that if wielded correctly, then a man could bring power back to Japan, not by an emperor, but with commerce. Saburo pulled the blade from his stomach, and that very same night went to study economics and politics, so he could lead Arasaka and Japan to dominate the world politically and economically. Saburo took the company over in 1960 after his father's death. He was 41. Within the next 60 years, he would create Arasaka into his own image, one of complete power and dominance. He did this by creating the Arasaka Security Division. This division would become Arasaka's greatest asset. They created the best security in the world. By the 1990s, thousands of powerful individuals and corporations would employ Arasaka Security. Saburo stepped down from CEO when he was 101. He had cybernetics installed so he could still survive, but he would never be able to leave his compound outside Tokyo. His son Kai would take over for the foreseeable future. Kai would become a ruthless leader in Arasaka. He had full control and would do anything in interest of the corporation and make sure they never lost. Everyone and everything was a chess piece to him, but his choices would eventually lead to his downfall. A Rival Corp in 2021 International Handelsmarine Aktiengesellschaft, or IHOG, announced bankruptcy. This would end up being a war between Arasaka and their main rival Militech. When IHOG announced bankruptcy, this would lead to a war between Arasaka and their main rival Militech to take them over. To Kai, this war could not be lost. Militech and Arasaka were competing on taking over anything and everything. One day, Militech launched an attack on the Arasaka Tower in Night City. Kai was forced to commit suicide as the tower was bombed by a mini-nuke from Militech. The president blamed everything on Arasaka even though Militech caused it. Arasaka was not allowed to be in the States any longer and all members were named terrorists. Arasaka would go on to be broken down into 3 factions owned by different family members, but by 2077, they were back in full force. So you might be asking yourself, why does all this matter and how does Johnny Silverhand fit into all this madness? Well, let's get into that. Johnny was a part of the military during the Central American conflicts in the 90s, where the US was fighting for the Panama Canal after the treaty expired with Panama, Nicaragua, Honduras, and El Salvador. The US responded by them by developing plagues that targeted drug plants in those countries. This created hate towards the US among the cartels. Backed by the European Union, the cartels started a massive drug war in the US. This war was very much like Vietnam, and the US soldiers did not come out well, and many deserted the military because of it. Johnny came back from the war a changed man, his views, and his new name, Silverhand, as he had lost his arm in the war and would make Night City his home. He formed a rebellion to fight the US government. This was in the form of a band, Samurai. Samurai would become incredibly famous for being revolutionary, but it wouldn't last forever. In 2008, their keyboardist Nancy killed her abusive boyfriend and went to prison, and Samurai was done. But this wouldn't stop someone like Johnny. He knew what he wanted to do. He had something to prove to his fans and the government. He was approached by the DBS Music who wanted to sign him. He refused and was blackmailed, and they threatened to announce his desertion from the army. In typical Johnny fashion, he signed with Universal and made an entire album named Sins of Your Brothers, where he admitted his desertion and revealed every awful thing the government ordered. Not even being at his peak, Johnny single-handedly changed public perception of deserters and the government with his album. Here is where everything changed for Johnny and where our two entities finally meet. Johnny met his girlfriend in 2020, Alt Cunningham. Nobody knows very much about her, not even Johnny, but what is known, and the most important part, is she was a genius programmer and netrunner. Here is where Arasaka comes in. One day while Johnny and Alt were taking a walk, Arasaka Security kidnapped her. They knew about her skills as a netrunner and programmer, and Arasaka had an evil idea for her. They wanted her to create a program called Soul Killer. What this would do is copy and download a netrunner's mind and then kill them. Johnny, having been left behind from the kidnapping, devised a plan. He put together a strike team that would sneak into Arasaka and save Alt. On top of this, he went to call a samurai crew and they put on a free show right in front of the Arasaka offices. The strike team went in while the show was going on, but they were too late. Alt had been killed by her own program, and her mind was forever trapped inside the mainframe of the Arasaka building. Naturally, Johnny went in after her, but he did not have an easy time. There were many issues in his way, and one of the main ones was Atom Smasher, Arasaka's security cyborg, once man, now mostly all machine. Nobody really knows what happened to Johnny when he went inside. Some people think Smasher killed him, or he died before he even got there. This attack from Johnny happened to be the same day Militech dropped their mini nuke on Arasaka, and Johnny's body was never found. This is where the story ends and we get into speculation. But with what we know, I think we can see what might have happened. We have seen Johnny in the trailers. He isn't in physical form, but virtually in V's mind. What we know of the story so far is that finding the chip of immortality is the main questline. From all the trailers and gameplay and seeing Johnny come up a lot, I think it's safe to say we get our hands on this chip early in the game. We use it and we upload Johnny into our heads. It's not a memory of him, but it's actually his consciousness. I think when Johnny was in that tower before it blew up, Alt helped him upload his mind with the Soul Killer program. Since she was in the Arasaka mainframe and is a genius, she would have known everything that was going on and planned on saving Johnny. Now, to make it more speculative, I think she uploaded him into a chip, the one that we were after, in a way for him to get out of the tower and begin trying to save her. We obviously end up with the chip, and the main quest is taking down Arasaka and saving Alt. So is Cyberpunk entirely based on one rocker's love interest? Yeah, I really think it is. All the clues are there for this to be true, and I have no problem with this, and I will give my cybernetic soul to help Johnny saving her. He is an icon and a legend, so why not? How do you guys feel about this? Is this plausible, or do you think there is something else going on? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I would love to discuss this further. If you guys find this content awesome, want to watch some more, make sure to click on the video coming up or the ones I'll pin down below. Don't forget to sub if you enjoyed this content. Covering Cyberpunk is a joy, and I will be doing it much more throughout the month. And until next time, peace.